what value you feel that gamification generally adds to businesses?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, right? I think what you need to think about is how do you utilize those core mechanics or those core emotions or those core principles of games to
Yeah.
make your product a lot more engaging. So if you're able to think beyond your basic product, think to in a go to user psychology, think about what the user is feeling, apply that to your product, and then gamify that.
Hmm.
Your engagement can be way better than otherwise not building that, right? Second, really good aspect is if you can figure out the intrinsic motivating factors, right? You can drive a lot more traction without
Hmm.
spending a lot of money, right? Otherwise, we'll as always like keep and end up giving cashbacks and rewards, right?
Yes, yes.
So referrals is a great example, right,
Yeah.
for this.
Understood. Yeah. I mean, even what we are trying to do in Gameize is gamifying the referrals part altogether. So instead of having a plain vanilla referrals just by sending you the code and then you getting onboarded, we are also giving rewards, and I mean, enterprises can give rewards on doing certain actions after getting onboarded and attaching a leaderboard out of it. That more people you refer, you are on top of the leaderboard and you can win more rewards. So, like you said, referral is one of the low CAC mechanism. Like it's an organic way. If you're not giving rewards, then it's an organic way. And rewards need not be always, vouchers or cashbacks. And in-app currency coins can also be a good motivation factor. Yeah. Coming to my next question, what importance does experimentation and user research hold in gamification? Like in
Right.
previously two questions also you said that it's important to understand the user psychology. So can you help us out how to do the proper user research and devising the game mechanics around it?
Sure. Okay, awesome. So, when we talk about gamification is a very, very vast area, right?
Mm.
And like I said, if you really want to make an impact, you should aim to try to understand the intrinsic motivation of a person, right? And that is something you cannot just see with numbers. You cannot just see with doing surveys, right?
Yeah.
Because most people themselves, they don't know what they
But
want, right? What
yes.
emotion they feel.
Yeah.
So you have to be also think like a psychologist, right?
Mhm.
So this is where user research comes into play, right? Basically, you can take an example of any. Let's take an example of a product, right? You can try to understand what are the emotions that the user feels at different points, right? You can tailor your question in such a way that the user is actually talking about, okay, how did they feel, right?
Mhm.
Once you arrive at this, let me give you an example. Let's say there's a badge system a product has, right?
Mhm.
When I tell a user that, you're getting a reward, you're getting these badges out of it, right? And try to understand what they're feeling. So a lot of users will tell me, okay, I got a reward, right? But I don't like boasting about it, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone else is getting this reward.
Hmm.
So there's no exclusivity that I have if I want to boast about something, right? That is one example that I've seen in the past, right? So you could have similar such examples.
Yeah.
Unless you don't talk to these users, you're not going to understand their psychology, right?
Mm. True.
Where some people would say, I get a reward, I need to feel celebrated enough.
Hmm.
If I feel celebrated enough, then only I'm going to share it, right?
Yeah, true.
Right. So unless you don't talk to these people, you're not going to get these answers, right? But the second thing is also when people are talking about their emotions, it can be taken a lot of different ways, right?
Hmm.
So it's very important to form a hypothesis on this, figure out certain tactics, and then experiment. Unless you experiment, you will not be able to figure out whether it's actually working or not.
Mm. True.
Yeah. And if you talk to users, you cannot talk to all your users, right? There
Hmm.
will be a certain small set of 20, 30 people you can probably talk to. But when you experiment for different segments, you understand if this is actually meeting your metrics for different
Mm.
segments of users, as well as it'll justify the cost or ROI for you, especially if it's a paid reward.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, you rightly said, if just like the normal digital marketing campaigns, gamification campaigns also needs to have experimentation. right? What works for you might not work for me. For me, generally, if I interact more with trivia kind of a scenario in the gamification element, I feel more challenged that okay, I if I answer this and if I get something, that's some reward that I'm winning. Some people
Yeah.
interact with spin wheel more because they see that okay, if all the six quadrants has a reward, there's a possibility that I'll win something. So nothing works for everyone. So it's always better to have a experimentation drawn out. So yeah, I really like what you mentioned about the experimentation part. Yeah, so this brings to my next question as since you have implemented gamification, what's your take on build versus buy? I mean, this is a very
Awesome. I
prominent
think that's a
question in the
yeah,
industry. And which one is
yeah,
expensive and how one should go about it? I mean, this is a
yeah.
very, to be honest, while I'll give you my perspective, when I go and, talk to my clients, there's this one question all the time that should we build it in-house or should we go with you? So I think you can help me out here.
I think if you really think about it, right, gamification is something which sounds very exciting to a lot of people,
Yeah,
right? So everyone wants to build on their own,
yeah,
right? As a PM, as a designer, as a tech person in the company,
yeah,
everyone wants to do something exciting, something
yes,
challenging, right? So
yeah,
the natural inclination is to do that delight thing,
mm,
then talk about it later on, right? But
yeah,
when you actually analyze, uh, what do you want to actually do, right? Firstly, if you want to provide a good experience, it's expensive to build, right? You will
yes,
need a very strong team,
yes,
as well as it will take you a lot of like probably instead of being able to launch something in a week, you will probably take like 2 months to build that
true.
if you want to achieve decent quality, right? And as I said, experimentation is very important.
Hmm.
Unless you rapidly experiment, you don't rapidly try different things, you don't know what is the right thing that you want to do, right?
Hmm.
And with gamification comes rewards that we give out.
Hmm.
And these rewards generally cost money, right?
Yes.
You also need to experiment what is the right amount of money you
Hmm.
want to give out, right? Which are the areas is working out, right? So sometimes building everything does not make sense because it will be very expensive to build. You need a separate team to build it out. It will take a lot of time, especially when the game is not your core product.
Hmm. True.
That is really important because if
Hmm.
I work at a gaming company, I will have people who are really good at building the mechanics. I will have the best UI engineers, the best backend engineers, right? But when for a regular tech and product team, I may not have that, right? Uh, so it's very important, right? Another very important aspect of this decision is basically, uh, let's take example of Amazon, right? Amazon had this, if you remember in, I think back in 2015, 16, they had this feature that, you have to go in the app. There is a random product, hidden product. You have to find that out, and then
Yes.
you
Kind of a
get
treasure
to buy that
hunt.
product at a very
Yeah.
low price. Yeah, like a treasure hunt, right? So if you think about it, it worked for a few months.
Hmm.
After that, people have stopped talking about it. Amazon also realized it's not working anymore, right? If I keep doing the same spin the wheel every time,
Hmm.
right, the users will ultimately get bored because ultimately they will find that the same set of same rewards I'm getting. So that freshness is important, right? Now, when you talk about freshness, there are two types of freshness that come in. First is the freshness of the mechanic and the reward, right?
Hmm.
It's always mostly more about the reward,
Hmm.
and mechanic is a way to delight the user,
Yeah.
right? But the second aspect, the second side of freshness you need to maintain is basically as the user progresses using your product, right? The user is bound to get bored. Either you increase the reward you're giving them, or either you give them a different way to get the reward.
Yes. Yes.
It
True.
depends on the context. Like every type of product would have different contexts. So to experiment this freshness, try keep doing this again and again. It's very expensive. You need a separate team to just build this out,
Hmm.
and will take a lot of time as well. So I
Yeah.
always say go with a buy decision. Like there are a lot of like Gamies is one of them. There is have I can just do a direct integration and just use the mechanics out of the box. Do
Yeah.
that, figure out what actually works for you,
Yes.
right? You don't have to spend that much of money to basically build
At
this
least
out, right?
start
And
with.
you
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
And second thing is, I mean, uh, you don't have to provide the exact experience of the best game out there, right?
Hmm.
So that customization is mostly not needed. It's more about having the right mechanic and the right reward and giving that to the user, right? There are a lot of other capabilities you need to build. You need to be able to manage your ROI with experimentation. You have to show the mechanics to the right set of users. All those are additional features that you have to build out, right?
So yeah, so yeah, you rightly mentioned that people generally see that this is only a spin wheel, this is only a scratch card. But what goes behind just showing the spin wheel, where that wheel has to stop, what kind of reward the user based on the user segment should get. It's a hell lot of things that needs to be built up to start
Yeah,
just show a spin wheel. And I have been through that journey, so I can say that even launching one spin wheel with the campaign module, with the rewards part, with the segmentation, it's not easy. It takes at least 3 to 4 months just to build the basics and then launch it. So, and
right.
if an organization is if the business is just thinking about experimenting gamification, because to be honest, gamification is not for everyone. It depends upon what kind of user segments you cater to, uh, right, and what kind of products you are selling it out. So if you just want to experiment, then why to invest heavily and build an entire team over here? Why not to experiment or start with an existing player in the market? Because companies who are into gamification space and offering having a vast offering, they do continuous research in different industry segments. Like, we generally if we have three target segments in industry like BFSI, e-commerce, telecom. So we have a dedicated team who is just doing research, what game mechanics, what kind of activities, and what kind of rewards that generally work into this space. So, and what needs to be built on top of that. So it's a very even though it looks like it's a gameplay of few seconds, but it takes a lot of effort to just run that few seconds show. So
Yeah. I think
I'm
that's a great point that you mentioned. I think when we talk about a game mechanic, we only mostly talk about front end because that's what we see. That's the
yes,
exciting part.
yes,
There's a lot that goes in the back end if you want to build it properly. Uh, like the example of spin the wheel you said, right? First is a trigger when to show the spin wheel and to show to which user. That is
yes,
the first step, right? If you can just do it 100%, launch it to every user. But
yes,
if you really want to build that ROI, then you will have to figure out eventually the right segment, right?
yes.
When the user actually interacts with spin the wheel, there's a lot of backend that is going on. For example, you will be having a set of X rewards. Let's say you have a set of 5 rewards, right? There's a lot of backend randomization that you will do, or you will have some rules to giving out those rewards to the
Oh,
users,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And these rules may change, right? So,
yes,
so that's itself is as bigger than building the mechanic itself.
true. That's 100% correct. I mean, majority of
Yeah,
our team generally goes on, refining our logic. The UI part of
right.
a pinwheel treasure chest, it's not that big of an element. It's just how, like you said, it's just how you want to give away the rewards. The rewards are already there with the enterprises. Initially, they used to give out in SMS, WhatsApp, just a plain text message. Now they are just gamifying those rewards. So rewards are always there, but how to build or how to make the users aware that you have won something and you have to use this. So this is how gamification is helping them. But yeah, it's not only about just game mechanic division. It's a hell lot of thing that goes in the back end.